ladies and gentlemen, it's overlooked. Overlooked, ladies and gentlemen, I would say. And I did say that when I was looking at this box set and unboxing it. I'll give you a clue. It's this. Yes, this. Ooh. Black Sabbath, Anno Domini, 1989 to 1995. They would be the period during which people kind of, well, not ignore Black Sabbath, but it's not the period people go to because it's the period in which they had a little bit of trouble. Well, look at that. Looks a picture of me over the back. Look at that. Smiling away. Much younger then, with all my life in front of me. Where did it all go? Anyway, it's the period that they were having a little bit of trouble around. And I need to add some context to this because what I said was I would do the unboxing, which is lovely because you've got, just to remind you, you've got lots and lots of lovely stuff. He said reaching for it. So you've got things like this book, lovely book with all the albums. You've got 4 albums here. And what I said I would do with those albums is, and I've made some notes down here, so I'm going to keep looking down at those notes because it's very important that I actually get all of the notes that I need. So, yours. There are 4 albums here. I am going to go through each one of them because I really like them. I remember listening to these albums with my friend Dave. Hello, Dave. And thinking, why are people not picking up on this? And particularly, one of those albums which is much disliked is the word you're looking for, Steve. That would be the English language word you want to use. Disliked. And look at do you like my? There's the look. I'll just sit up a bit. There you go. Look, you see. Very nice. My lovely wife Debbie bought me that. Very nice. Anyway, it's much maligned and much disliked. That's what I wanted to say. And it's kind of forgotten. The Tony Martin period is kind of forgotten. And so I want to go through each album, each of these 4, in order. Because they're an awful lot better than peeps, think they might be. So, first album up is 1989, and I'm going to add some context to this one. It's Headless Cross. Headless Cross. And the Headless Cross. So yes, it has some fantastic tracks on here. Yeah, and I need to add some context to this. When people talk about the difficult times for Black Sabbath, they had gone through some difficult times. If you consider, they've had the one-shot album with Ian Gillan, Born Again, which I despise and malign. I tried to like it so many times. And I think it's got moments, but I don't think it's great. It's not as good as any of the albums in this box, I have to say, he said, tapping the box, as you can hear. But they'd done that. They'd had the situation with the Stonehenge monument that couldn't quite get into some of the venues. They had a riding high at Ozzy Osbourne at the time. They then had the debacle with Donato, Dave Donato, who they, rumour has it, because there's several different views of this. Tony Iommi's view would differ to other people's view. Rumour has it, and I remember at the time it being reported in Kerrang, that they saw him in a band, thought he looks great, he had that blonde flowing hair, looked good, and he got a great voice live, and they brought him into the studio and he had a photo taken with them. It exists, you can Google it and have a look, or whatever search engine you use, and it's there, and he looks like he's a proper member of the band. The rumour is when they got him into the studio, he couldn't actually cut it. That would be a surprise to me because he did subsequently, he's now sadly passed, but he did subsequently produce an album with Mark St. John, erstwhile of Kiss. So you've had that situation. You've had that. Is he in the band? Isn't he in the band? Oh, I don't know. Then you've had the situation with Glenn Hughes, and Glenn is very honest about this and the stuff that happened around Seven Star. It's a great album, but it's not a Black Sabbath album. It's really melodic. It's great hard melodic rock. And I love Glenn Hughes dearly. And his life is clean and sober and brilliant now, and his work is stupendous. However, at this time, he'll be honest about this, I feel sure, and he's said several times, that's what wasn't the case. Look at this, got a spot here. Look at that. Can't squeeze it yet. Can't wait, it's going to be a big one. Anyway, I could have had some concealer before I came on here, but I'm not that vain. I'm not vain. I don't even need concealer. So, he will tell you, and has many times, of the story about the situation with blood at the back of the throat, not being able to complete the tour, and all of that. So there's that one shot and done. Then you've got Eternal Idol, when you had Ray Gillan coming in singing most of those songs, and then not completing that album. So Tony Martin was brought in to sing on that album. So you've got a real, well, you can't really keep your singers. It's not looking like it's consistent. And then as well, leading into this album in 89, you've got record label shenanigans, people dropping, Black Sabbath, and finally Miles Copeland of IRS saying, you know how to write songs, you know what you're doing, off you go and do that. So a new record label. And there was some concern or consideration, not concern, but consideration about whether you should invite Tony Martin back, who was ostensibly singing other people's songs for the last album, in a writing and singing role, or there was some consideration about whether Ronnie James Dio should be invited back. He will come back, though, won't he, in 1992 for the excellent Dehumanizer, which destabilises the Tony Martin period, doesn't it? Because these albums on this here box set are, they are, because the last one's Forbidden in 95, Cross Purposes in 94, between Tear in 1990 and Cross Purposes, you've got Dehumanizer, haven't you? Which I love. I love it as an album. It's Dio, and I love it, but it was a one shot and done, so you've got that. It didn't take. So you've got a period of difficulty, and really, Iommi is keeping the band together financially, I think, and by the force of his will, more or less on his own. You've got a disparate group of people here as well. So you've got Tony singing, you've got Tony Iommi, of course. You've got Cozy Powell, who was apparently, it said, instrumental in persuading Tony Iommi that you need Tony Martin in here. And you've also got Lawrence Cottle on bass. Now, Lawrence Cottle has come back to play bass for the Deified track, which is part of the Parfum. The Parfum, that, the perfume we duck, that Tony Iommi's got, or Aftershave, I don't know which it is, that he's got coming out. So yeah, he's back again. And a lot of people have commented to say, oh, it's great to see Lawrence Cottle back. He's on this here album. He said, having dropped the CD. He's on this here album. And it's brilliant, folks. People overlook it, but I want to look at my notes to make sure I don't forget anything. The track itself, Headless Cross, is a terrible title, but has got that great big chorus. It's a great big chorus. It does sound like Dio. Quite a lot of the lilting kind of groove, slow groove and heaving in the verse is very Dio, and it is here. Big beat, though, to come in. And then great in your ear riff. I mean, a riff that says, right, we're back. It's sharp, and I'll brook no dissent at that. It's a great piece of work. It's got a kind of Middle Eastern middle to it. It's massive. The chorus is big, but it's really catchy. Devil and Daughter's the same thing. It's rumbunctious, if I could say it. Dramatic vocal, though. And I have to say that the cat, Mr. Martin, on this album is really owning his own lyrics and the music here. He's really giving us a great sing. This is big, dramatic, rangy solo. Again, Devil and Daughter, it's got a great chorus. Devil and Daughter, it's got a great kind of pushy, barreling along chorus. You've also got When Death Calls. It is quite Dio, actually. But again, you've got one of those massive choruses. They really, the choruses here are fabulous. Quiet, and not quiet, short, expected, loud, not quiet, big. But they stay with you. What they do is they knock on the door, come in, make themselves a sandwich, make themselves a cup of tea, turn the TV on and say, do you mind? Say, no, actually, stay as long as you like. It's great. And in a few months, you might be thinking, maybe I'd like to have someone else round. But until then, these will stay with you and you'll love them. Killing the Spirit World has a sort of straight ahead, big rock to it, feel to it. It's got an ominous, dramatic section and a hugely demonstrative solo from Tony Iommi. Just great. The tracks on here are overlooked. Black Moon, it's simple, it's accessible, it's got a saucy bass from Lawrence Cottle. Saucy, Lawrence, saucy. It really works well with that riff. It's got a Dio feel again. A lot of it has. And Mr. Martin does sound a bit like Dio. I don't mind that. Not Dio with Sabbath, Dio with Dio in his own band, which he's called Dio. You know what I mean. And then we finish with Cloak and Dagger, which is big, all right. We've heard it before, the chorus, but you kind of think, well, I know what it is. I know what it should be. That's all it should be. It's got a massive solo. It's a great piece of work. And this album is just overlooked. The next one, Tear, I'm not so keen on. And I don't know that much about it. So I'm guilty of this as well, aren't I? But this album, Headless Cross. I mean, you're going to get Cross Purposes later and Forbidden. So that's going to be interesting for fans, ain't it? I don't know where fans stand on this, but I would love to hear how you feel about this. Because I think this is a band in rude health, despite what everybody else was saying at the time. Ta-ta.